Now, I'm very excited. On this edition, the next edition of Isolation Interviews, I'm joined by a fantastic guest, the very lovely Jason Watkins. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, life as we know it is a little bit weird. How are you finding things? How are you coping with life in lockdown?
Well, it's a funny thing because, I think underlying it obviously is the tragedy that everyone is suffering, and that can never be forgotten, and one is always reminded of that. But you also have to kind of get on and try and make the most of your time and help other people and do those sorts of things and support your family and and do a bit of homeschooling, which is a challenge. So it's a kind of mixture of things, sort of getting fit, trying to do a bit of reading, but overriding all that is trying to teach, particularly my 8-year-old boy. He's at school at home. My daughter Bessie, she's really good and she's working hard and looking after herself. But we're not all born teachers, shall we put it that way. But then and there's lots of charity work and stuff like that one can do and have a bit of time. But I forget how much I like reading, and I end up reading a lot of scripts and stuff like that. And so my reading sort of muscle is used up in that way. So having a bit more time enables one to read. But I'm still looking for the odd, hour in the day to do that. And it's very difficult, even though, seemingly we're not doing very much.
I was talking to someone the other day, and it does give you a real respect for example, the teachers who you realise what a tough job they have. Obviously, all the frontline workers who are doing such an amazing job, and you kind of have a newfound respect for them. Not saying we necessarily took them for granted, but maybe we did. So how do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely undervalued. I think particularly within the care system, I think I think there are two sectors within our sort of NHS section that's always suffered, and that is the care element, which has obviously been largely privatised, and also mental health. So they're two things which are a little bit unsexy, some people see it, and that those people, and particularly their effort over the years, has been neglected and undervalued. And I think what's happened is that this tragedy has really focused minds on what is really important and how we should value people who are working with the NHS, particularly those on the front line, but also, frankly, they should be paid, and it should be seen as a job it should be recognised and seen as a job that is valuable, and something that younger people, when they come into their working lives, should see as something that we all really appreciate, and that they should both get the recognition for that, but also be able to have a family life and have the money that needs to do that. So yeah, I hope that those things subtly shift. If not subtly, then quite majorly. We'd be very happy. But yeah, I think we're all very much excited about the possibilities of other members of our society who've been slightly neglected, that they are become more into focus.
And not just with, people's jobs and everything, but we also, I think it's changed us as a nation, as a world, as to how we communicate. Obviously we're doing this over Zoom, you've got Skype and all these things, FaceTime. Do you think going forward it will change the way that we communicate with one another?
Well, I suppose it's going to be a while. Who knows how long it's going to be before we're able to get in front of a camera. So I think there's going to be quite a slow process of evolving a way of communicating in that way. I think I've been talking to people. There are ideas about how we can do that, even though we have social distancing. I think, we're going to sort of communicate a lot like this, perhaps, at a distance. But I think the thing is, listening to various people and having one's own thoughts, that sort of physical distance, being in the same room with somebody, whether that's to hug them or not, is really important, and we are missing out on that.
It shows that as a country, and like I say, as a globe, really, the world has become. It's a very strange place. No one quite knows what's happening next. No one knows going forward where we're going to be. So we're kind of making the most of the situation as we have it at the moment. Um, I mean, do you think eventually, when we get to sort of, I suppose, as normal life as we can have, do you think that it will give us a newfound respect for just things that we took for granted, like going to the shops, hugging our friends, spending time with people that you love?
Yeah, I think it was quite telling. I saw a news item yesterday about children who are emerging from being in lockdown in apartments and houses in Spain. The little girl was getting really excited about handing over a flower to her mother that she hadn't seen a flower. So without getting too hippie about it, I think we are going to be thrust into more into a digital world, and perhaps we're going to forget a little bit about the physical things and scent, and taste and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe those things, they'll become more important as well.
Now, obviously, for yourself, life is, different. You're not able to do what you normally do. What would you say is the one thing you're missing the most about, being able to get involved in acting jobs? So what is it you're really missing the most, would you say?
Well, it's funny because I think it's odd because as actors, you go away and you work quite intensely, and then you have time at home. There's often you have time at home. Often you're helping out and being a parent and preparing for the next thing. A lot of your time is spent learning lines and working on what you're doing. But so being at home whilst sort of working is not a completely alien thing. I mean, I really miss the banter of film crews and actors and the sort of silliness, even though you're doing something quite serious. There's an element of gallows humor, if I can say that. There's a kind of, I miss all that, the camaraderie, and I miss actually, I like working with young actors, and I like encouraging them, and I hope I'm not teaching people how to act, but I enjoy the process of helping good young actors, eager actors to get better. There's something very rewarding about that. So I kind of miss that, and I miss seeing my mates. Really miss going to art galleries and stuff like that with my friends, and but yeah, because I think the social interaction thing's just gone now, isn't it? At the moment, restaurants, really miss going to restaurants. And with my wife or with friends, and just having a dinner with them and watching lots of other people as well. I mean, that's the thing you miss. People watching is difficult. You can't do that really. And I like people watching because you always think about what they're thinking, and half impersonating people a lot of the time subconsciously. So I miss that.
So what were you? I mean, before this all kicked off, what would you have been doing at the moment had life been normal?
I would have been. Well, I came back from South Africa on the. I'm trying to remember the dates, but their shutters came down very early in the cycle of the virus with them, and they were when I was out there filming Around the World in 80 Days, which is a big European co-production between the BBC and RTE and a lot of the major European networks. David Tennant's playing Phileas Fogg, and I was in South Africa filming that, and I literally had finished work on my work there, and at the end of the day's filming, the producer stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry, we're having a hiatus, and we're shutting down, we're putting things on hold." And the previous night, I was at someone's house in South Africa and watching the news, and their Cyril Ramaphosa had put the shutters down, saying we want everybody who's a foreigner needs to leave by tomorrow night. And they were very draconian, but I think that has helped them actually. So in their fight against the virus. So I would have been coming home, and then I would have been in Romania, filming in Romania, doing more of that project. That's where I would be now.
It must have been a bit strange being in another country, and obviously your family back home in the UK. Were you kind of worried that maybe you wouldn't get back, or were you always quite happy that you were going to be?
It was weird because there was a growing feeling of, my wife was doing a play, Leopoldstadt, in the West End. And she even, I think we were on the phone saying, this is why I should be, all these people were out there in the audience, all in like in a big room, and a couple of them are coughing. Do you think we should just stop this? And it carried on. And but so I was hearing that while I was in South Africa, but there was a growing sense of unease, and then that I might be stuck out there while they were going through. And I think David turned had gone home for a weekend, and he didn't come. Quite luckily, he didn't come back. So if he'd come back, he might have had problems getting back the other way. But I mean, mind you, they probably would have flown him out in a jet. They would have got a helicopter. But he's a lovely guy, by the way. But I mean, yeah. So I was glad I got out. Yeah, I mean, I got on one of the last flights out. Yeah.
So I say, obviously, life continues as well, as much as normal as it can at the moment. But I mean, it's a hard one to say, but have you kind of thought about when life does return back to normal, what the plans will be? Or is it still just you don't want to do anything yet until you know sort of for definite what the future holds?
Well, I've got stuff coming out that I can promote. I mean, there's stuff that is in the can and that is coming out later on in the year, and a couple of things, and then I'm due to do something which I'm not allowed to talk about because it's not been officially announced. So I'm just hoping that happens quite soon. I mean, I think for us actors, it's very hard because I think we will be one of the last back into the fray, and I'm not. I've got money in the bank, so that's fine. I've got savings, but so and I'm not going to benefit from any of the apart from some income support, which wouldn't really make much difference. Wouldn't really help me particularly, and I don't have to lean on that yet. But give it 2 years, and then I'll be worrying, or even less, frankly, obviously. And I'm doing quite well, so actors that aren't doing it, that, aren't, doing the sort of work that I'm doing, but doing other stuff, that's going to be a challenge and will be a challenge. And I hope that banks and the government realise that creative people really need support. And I think there hasn't been much of that mentioned in recently about performers. There they are entertaining on Zoom and doing all their bit and doing silly little videos and stuff. But there's many of them are going to find it very hard. And I hope that when businesses get lent money, that performers do as well, and they need to keep going and get back out there. So yeah, it's it is challenging. But so I'm just waiting for these jobs that I know are there, and just talking to other people about 1 or 2 projects that we're interested in, and 1 or 2 of my own ideas that I'm pursuing. So that's a nice place to be in that respect. Yeah.
I mean, I know that not necessarily returning to normal, but I read recently that the cast of the soap opera Neighbours in Australia, they have started to kind of go back to filming, but are doing sort of scenes where actors are miles apart, and the camera trickery, they'll kind of bring them together. Yeah. So it is, I'm not saying returning to normal, but sort of life is kind.
I won't be doing Neighbours. Just I'm getting really excited. I won't be doing that. But I'm much admiring of their work. But in fact, I used to love watching it when I was in my 20s. Probably when I was working less, I could tell you quite a lot about Neighbours. But yeah, no, Sorry, I cut you off. But they're evolving a way of working. Yeah.
I mean, we're actually due to have Alan Fletcher as my next guest, so I'm hoping to find out a bit more about that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So he's back to work. But going back to your days on Trolley, because we must talk. Obviously, Gavin Strong would be considered as a key worker at the moment. What do you think his message would be to people in the supermarkets and people that are kind of continuing on their daily jobs?
Well, he'd be very concerned for his flock. I think he's a very diligent, caring person. He'd probably panic as well. So he'd be trying to be very calm and cheery on top, and I'm just worried about stock levels and range. I mean, the range of products aren't available. There's no 3 for 2. Forget it. I mean, you might do a special offer on toilet paper, but of course stocks will be terribly low. But I'd like to think that, like a lot of supermarkets, he would be contributing to food banks and stuff like that, and any surpluses that are left over any stock period, that he would be shoving them into getting them out there into the community. So yeah, Gavin's, he's maybe he would find his moment. I mean, I think he would be heading for greatness actually in this crisis.
And we must also say, obviously anyone who's, bored and hasn't got much to do at the moment, there's, a lot of your back catalogue that would keep people entertained. I mean, I absolutely love Line of Duty. You were involved in The Crown. So, I mean, you've had these fantastic jobs, and this is the ideal time for people to sort of catch up on these sort of great shows that are out there. Yeah,
well, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, I'd hate to. I was doing an interview this morning actually, and talking about homeschooling and how you can do funny voices. He's just over there now, actually. He's got it coming in a minute because we've been doing interviews all day, so he's going to be homeschooled quite rigorously soon. But yeah, you can do funny little voices and different characters, and just to try to get yourself through it for your own amusement. But yeah, I mean, without wishing to bore anyone, it's all out there. There's lots of stuff that if you like my work, then you can watch The Crown series 3 and my Harold Wilson and that, and then a lot of people have been tweeting me back about Herrick and Being Human, which is available I think on BritBox. And so if you, I suppose the range of my work is quite play lots of different characters. So if you like something I've been in, then there's lots of stuff out there that's different and contrasting, and I think a lot of actors. That's quite nice. There's a sort of hiatus and a pause. So if there's an actor you like, you can say, "Oh, I wonder what else they've done, or what she's been doing," and it can lead you somewhere else.
I think we're very lucky that had this happened at any other time, I mean, obviously you feel sorry for people back in the war during the World War, because they didn't have anything like this. They didn't have the TV on demand or contacting people over items like this. So I think we're quite lucky that we've got these things to kind of keep us going through the days that just every day becomes a bit like the same, and you sort of lose track of days.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what they did in the wars. I mean, what you make a little spider out of a matchbox again. I mean, there's not much that you can do. I mean, I think sometimes there's too much for Nintendos and iPads, and I mean, it's what he's doing now. And there's a lot of stuff out there that you have to battle against if you want your child to do some work. But yeah, but then I've started replaying my guitar because Gilbert's learning the guitar and fitfully, and but it's my job now because he's not being tutored for me to. So I thought, oh gosh, yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. So. And I'm trying to read more, and so make those sorts of things are done, and have conversations. We always have dinner together, or tea. We have tea together and talk about stuff. And I try and angle a subject so we don't just talk about the latest episode of Teen Titans Go. So there's a kind of the art of conversation is.
It's a good way to reconnect, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think I'm seeing enough of my daughter. She should go down to a pit. I call it a pit. It's a bedroom. It's a very nice bedroom. But, she's there playing Minecraft with her friends. And we kind of let her do that because she's talking to her friends and she's creating something and all those sorts of things. But I think I need to carve out more time with her.
I was going to say, going forward, we still don't know, what the future will hold, but it's just a matter of, as long as you're still, making sure that people around you are still, being looked after, are safe, making sure that you don't lose touch with people who could be vulnerable, and just kind of, keeping that community going. I think that's the most important thing that hopefully we'll learn, and we'll take it forward. Even once this situation's over, you'll still, keep looking after, people that are important to you.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, it just reminded me as you're saying that, I've got to speak to my dad actually. He's 88 and I haven't spoken to him for a couple of days. So he's doing okay. Your family, of course. And my older children, they're in Manchester. They're in a flat together in Manchester. So I'm keeping tabs on them, making sure they keep the place tidy. And their mental health as well, of course. So they're doing well. But then we have neighbours that we sort of shout across the fence at. We've got a couple of people around the corner, elderly people who we're keeping an eye on, and we're part of, Age UK in Camden. So I'm in the process of becoming a buddy to talk to a senior person that I'll do every week. And I'm just waiting for which is a thing I've got to do. So those sorts of things. So and I hope that kind of thing does lead to, having friends after this has, calmed down.
Because so going forward, obviously we'll be able to sort of it will change us for the better. I hope it will change us for the better, and that it'll make people more aware and more sort of just, I think, just a bit more caring maybe. But we'll have to fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, I mean, if you see it as as being in a sort of war, really. I mean, and we have to treat it as that, really, in what it's been doing to some people. So, and the people who are literally on the front line saving people's lives. That after a war, there is a period of adjustment, and let's hope that it does encourage all those things, and that both ourselves as individuals and as communities and the government more widely begin to focus on what is important and what is necessary. I think we've become without being preachy, I think things did change a little, in the 90s, and perhaps that we with the sort of credit boom, and we became more materialistic and more about money, and I would include myself to some degree in that, but I hope I've always thought about other things as well. But I hope that we realise that, and I'll say this to my children, that they're not just running around that. That your Nintendo is not as important as people and ideas, people, and support and empathy and all those sorts of things. They are the things that sustain you, and the things that help you in your life, developing your character and what to do and how to help people, spending time working out how to help someone in whatever capacity. So it's an interesting time, I think.
Now, I'd just like to say on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. I've had a lovely time chatting to you, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Keep safe. And again, thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. Yes, keep safe, everyone.